Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Doctor Who Reviews. This week, we are down a musketeer. FreezingInferno, Jerry, has a personal family matter that he has to take care of, so it's just us two. But I am joined by my other unusual co-host. So, to my virtual right, she has more sense in her little finger than this entire episode did. It's Kat. Yeah. Sorry, folks, it's one of those reviews.
Get ready for the negative Nancy train. Choo choo.
Well, the negative Nancy train and what on earth is going on train as well. It kind of hit both of those. Both of those tonight. Well, not tonight. This week.
Yeah. A bit.
A bit? That's being very kind to it.
Look, I can't get too angry at this. If I get too angry at this, I'm going to pull a muscle, and that won't be good for anybody.
No. Least of all yourself. Don't hurt yourself. So as you've probably figured out,
myself.
As you may have figured out if you're listening to this introduction, this wasn't great.
No.
This wasn't
really.
Anything, really. This is basically.
This is annoying.
This is 50 minutes. This is 50 minutes of build to episode 10.
Well, let's be fair. Only half of that was actual build. The other half was who the fuck even knows.
Is a very accurate description of it. I mean, we already had what?
At this point, I'm kind of doubting if Chibnall even knows what he's doing.
We had what? 3, maybe 4 story arcs already in this series.
Hey, why not just add a 5th one?
Why not just use part 1 of the finale to add a 5th one in there? Why not?
I'm 95% sure it ties in, and I think I know how, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear your theories on that, because I haven't got a clue.
Yeah, I've got a theory too, and it's a pretty good one.
Unfortunately, I think the writers didn't have much of a clue on writing this. I'm putting a brave face in it. I'm trying to laugh through it, but yeah, I wouldn't say it's the worst episode ever. You might disagree.
It's the worst episode ever.
Are you saying that because you mean it, or just to be facetious?
Both.
Right. Okay, I see how it's going to be. But yeah, there are some bits that were all right that I quite like. The cold open was quite nice. The bits
which I didn't get to see.
You didn't get to the cold open. Okay, so it's bits of dead Cybermen floating in space, and a shard narrating over the top of it. And the neat touch is that they zoom in on a Cyberman eye socket, and then you get the title sequence through the Cyberman eye socket.
Was the narration even any good?
It was basically, the empire. All empires have their time, and all empires come to an end. But what was once dead can live again in the hands of a true believer.
This is sounding a lot like Dark Water.
I like the Lone Cyberman. I think he's a decent villain.
Sure, let's go with that.
Do you think he was better in last week's episode?
Yeah, because then he was actually threatening. Now he's just every generic JRPG villain you could ever find.
That's not a bad description of him, unfortunately. I think he's better than Tim Shaw, at least.
He's Sephiroth without the angel or the fan base, essentially.
Oh, wow. That's quite damning.
Instead of mommy issues, he seems to have daddy issues.
He's got issues, period. Like parental or otherwise, this man has got some serious baggage attached to him. So the cold open was nice, I guess. The first 15 minutes, apart from that scene that came out of nowhere, they reminded me of... Have you seen Battlestar Galactica, the reboot?
No.
Okay, so you won't know what I'm talking about here, but people that have seen it will. It reminded me of the bits set on New Caprica in Battlestar Galactica, which is basically this refugee stronghold of a few last remaining humans. Sound familiar? And they've been invaded by the Cylons. Although the difference there is that the Cylons are humanoid. They look fully human.
Oh yeah, isn't like the premise that they're fighting against the Cylons or whatever they're called, and
Humanity
nobody
versus
knows
Cylons is the
exactly who's
major
a
premise.
Cylon and who's not?
That's the major premise of Battlestar Galactica, yes.
Okay, then I know kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's a good series. It's better than this episode was, but I'm sorry.
I think of a lot of things that are better than this.
I don't mean to be so negative, but when they don't give me much to be positive about, what can you do?
I do mean to be this negative. So
I know you do.
I have absolutely no qualms here.
When do you ever, in fairness?
This is true.
I do appreciate as well that we seem to be getting a darker Doctor again in a way that's quite organic, although there's problems with this too.
Yeah, just a bit. I kind of see it as in the last episode with Capaldi before he turned into Jodie, he was asking her to be kind, to understand people and all that bullshit that he mentioned. This feels like she's essentially returning back to who she was. Like, she tried so hard to be that good person. Not use weapons, not hurt anybody anymore. And now eventually it's gotten to the point where she's like, okay, I'm now going full on War Doctor, no more.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure if she's a War Doctor now, but she and her friends set up these...
but she's getting close to that.
Yeah. And I think, to be fair, this has been hinted that she was going to become darker ever since Spyfall Part 2. Ever since that revelation about Gallifrey and the Master.
Yeah.
They could have maybe shown it throughout subsequent episodes a bit better, but there is a reason why she gets quite dark and even shouts at her companions in this one. She sets up these anti-cyber devices, she and the companions do. And all seems quite well. And then these cyber drones appear from out of nowhere and destroy them in 20 seconds flat.
Yeah.
Cyber drones basically are just floating cyber heads.
Which makes me wonder if there's actual human heads inside of them or if they're fully robotic.
See, they never do this because it's still a tea time family show in terms of the slot on BBC One. But can you imagine if they'd used those?
It's more of that body horror that we're used to.
And speaking of body horror,
kids won't understand, but the adults are like, "Oh shit!"
What if they use those heads to sort of siphon off the brains?
That is very true.
And take them to be converted.
Plus, I mean, I'm sure there's been at least one or two times where someone has gotten their head chopped off. So there's something where like, well, we ain't gonna waste this shit.
Or maybe even clamp the helmet on the person and then a cyber suit emerges.
Yeah, or something. Either way, more body horror, blah blah blah.
Yes, we've had Dalek we've had Dalek drones before. We've had Dalek scouts. The converted humans with the eye stalk through the forehead.
Yeah.
Maybe we could have had Cybermen converted drones. Anyway, we didn't get that. They were just there. The filming of that scene, by the way, they actually were drones.
Really?
Yeah, the actors were actually reacting to drones.
Were they drones with Cybermen heads on them?
No, just proper flying drones.
Damn. That would have been so funny to just take one and go terrorize the city by having a flying Cyberman head just go over.
The budget didn't stretch that far, unfortunately. I think it would be hard to make a Cyberman head a drone, in fairness.
Look, if a college kid can turn a drone into this big old skeletal death motherfucker, then surely the Doctor Who people can scrounge up the $20 to make a mold of a Cyberman head.
I suppose they could have stuck a Cyberman helmet on a tray drone and done it that way, yes. I mean, the head would probably fallen off when the drone made any kind of turning, but they could have done that.
Think about it this way. How much do drones usually cost if you want them to be good ones that won't immediately fall out of the sky as soon as you nudge them
That's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So...
And that scene, there was a lot of explosions. This scene was clearly directed by Michael Bay, because my God, there was a lot of explosions.
Yeah, and a lot of close calls.
No jumping Cybermen, unfortunately.
No.
This is not the Doctor
There's a series out on Netflix that I want to see, but Michael Bay is directing it, so I have reservations.
that's probably fair, given his previous track record.
Just a bit.
But there is a reason why the Doctor becomes darker, and I did appreciate that. She's seen her plans dismantled in a very quick fashion. Some of the survivors have already died. They've already bitten the bullet. The guy that can't speak, and random Asian girl.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that to be...
No, we understand. It's like she's never given an actual name.
She isn't. She's not named at all. But the guy that can't speak and the random Asian settler, they're blown to smithereens. And this triggers a response in the Doctor because she doesn't want her friends to be lost to the Cybermen. So that, is an organic reason for her changing her personality. That's all good. And then the personality shifts back 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
They don't sustain it. They don't do anything with it. All of the, I don't want to say sins because that brings up cinema sins, but all of the problems of the Chibnall era are basically distilled into this episode.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, this is like the ultimate Chibnall episode, and that's not really a good thing.
I do think you're spot on, Vo, about your assertions about Yasvo. I think she's had it.
Yeah, you can see in this episode she got really assertive, and it's like, oh boy, you're painting a big target on your back.
Waving that death flag.
The only issue I have now is technically Ryan is safe, but Graham is now on the chopping block, and I'm not okay with that.
She might have even been shot at the finale of the episode. We don't even know yet.
Who knows?
They're not in the next time trailer.
I mean, really, the real question is, which would be worse? Them being dead, or them being converted?
I don't think they need to worry about being converted, because the show doesn't seem to care about that anymore. He's just killing.
Well, I mean, for us. Which would be worse for us?
Oh, for them, conversion, I think. That's a kind of waking death, isn't it?
Yeah.
Conscious of what you're doing, but unable to really do anything about it.
Well, I have, two issues with that. It's, number one, we've seen that the conversion can be somewhat rectified. Not completely rectified, but somewhat. It just depends on exactly who you're talking to at the time. Because you know Doctor Who lore.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is, I don't know, death feels more final for their characters.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, if you have them be converted, that's just sad. And
I hope we don't lose Graham next week.
I will be ticked off if we lose Graham.
I think we'll lose him in terms of him leaving the show, possibly, because I think if she survives the episode, and that's a big if, they might be setting up him and Ravio.
Maybe.
To be an item. Which, that's really random, because I like Julie Graham. She's a good actress. She does the best she can with the character of Ravio. Again, much like in Orphan 55, the supporting cast is paper thin.
Yeah.
They've all got silly names. They all have very few discerning character traits and personalities. We've got Ravio, who's about the most developed of them. We found out she needs to be a nurse.
I'm going to quote Frez here. This is like Orphan 55, but it doesn't have the balls to back up the bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I didn't like Orphan 55, but that's a fair assessment. Who else have we got? We've got Fika, but he gets shot. He's the teacher, and he went really at the end of the episode. I thought he'd last a bit longer. But no, he's shot through a wall. He's gone. We've got Yedlami, which just sounds like like you put some 8 characters into a random name generator and hit enter.
Pretty much.
And Bescat, who wasn't even named but was named in the credits, and that's the girl with the beanie hat and the one hand.
Okay.
Yeah, Rhiannon Clements, I think is the actress's name. Tried to do a search of her, and this was her first role. We'll have to start somewhere, I guess. But
yeah, and in this case, she'll start by dying in the last episode of Doctor Who.
I don't think she's long for this world. No. And then you have Ethan, who actually has a proper name, so he'll probably end up being important.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things where you can tell that you're supposed to feel depressed during this episode because there's only 7 people left on this entire planet. The entire human race is, who knows? The unfortunate part is that they're so uninteresting and boring and not there that you feel a different kind of depressed.
Yeah. I was going to say, I felt depressed all right, but not in the way they want me to.
It's like, I'm depressed now, but it's because you're a shitty writer.
I wouldn't go that far, but yeah. I think the confrontation between the Doctor and Ashard was a highlight. If there could be anything that could be considered a highlight in this episode.
I don't even know anymore.
Look, I'm trying, okay? I'm trying to push something desperately out of this.
Well, if you want some positivity, I mean, the Doctor's semi-speech to I really don't want to say this, but the TARDIS fam, about not wanting them to get hurt because they're humans and the Cybermen will go directly after them.
Yeah.
That was nice.
She says, I've been reckless.
You could feel the passion in her voice then.
Mm-hmm. Again, that echoes what happened with Clara.
Yeah.
And it didn't end well for her.
People, to be fair.
It did not end well for her at all.
No.
And you could be right. I think you are right about Yaz now.
Yeah.
We might be right about all 3 of them.
I mean, if she's not, then I will be surprised. But it just feels like the most is going to happen to her. I do agree that there is a chance that Graham and Ryan will also be gone. Maybe because of something happening to them, or because of what happens to Yaz.
Yeah.
But something's definitely going to happen to Yaz.
I think the clue also is that it's that Mandip Gill has had some input in her storyline this season. Karen Gillan has some storyline input in her final season. So did Jenna Coleman.
Oh no!
All those characters bit the bullet.
Oh no! Now she's murdering Clara! No!
I thought with him not here, we might get away with that this way, but no.
Well, I have to be a substitute, so I have a little badge and everything.
You don't have to be a substitute. You're choosing to be a substitute, but
look, he's paying me to do this. I have to.
You don't have to, but that word "have" is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence of yours. A lot of heavy lifting. I do think that the Shard is still scary, maybe not as scary as last week. He confirms what we all thought last week. I said he sounds like a willing recruit. Lo and behold, he's a willing recruit.
Yeah, but that could also still be a lie.
It could. He is quite deceitful, so it could.
Yeah. So it could just be one of those things of, I was totally willing, I promise. And then in his head, he's like, no, you weren't!
Yeah.
But the cyber conversions tell him, yes, you were.
But they have changed the Cyberman's MO here.
If my theory is right, then yes, he was a willing conversion. But because of something, we'll get into it.
I think I've got a horrible thing. I might know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
He's joined by a couple of Cybus era Cybermen. They wreak some havoc. Then we get these troops on board the Cyberman troop carrier. Yes, Christian will actually try to make the plot point of there are Cyberman troops on the Cyberman troop carrier a thing. Like, yes, of course there are Cybermen troops on this troop carrier. It's a Cybermen troop carrier.
I mean, it makes sense, but also, holy crap.
But it's so obvious, because there was Cybermen troop carrier.
Yeah. It's like the minute that they saw it, I was like, okay, you're going to go on there. There's going to be a big conversion lab. There's probably going to be a fuck ton of Cybermen that aren't activated or something. And then I was right.
They do look quite good. We barely see them in action, but they look quite good.
Yeah.
They've been dubbed the Cyber Warriors by the production team, presumably to differentiate between the other Cybermen. I think Ashard's the lone Cybermen. The two that were with him are the Cyber Guards, and then you got the Cyber Warriors. And they're all Cybermen.
They're all just still Cybermen, so.
Oh, they're all Cybermen, yeah, but different versions of Cybermen.
Okay.
I'm fine with that. We had that with the Dr. Falls. There were different types of Cybermen, different classes of them.
Okay.
It's like soldiers in an army, isn't it? You have different roles for different soldiers.
Okay, yeah, that is true. That is true.
You've got infantry, not infantry, infantry, explosive experts, medics, etc.
Well, I don't think they need medics.
Just they didn't have a cyber nurse unit. Oh my god. Hey, was that the inspiration for Cyberwoman?
All I can imagine now is a Cyberman walking out in like one of those sexy nurse outfits going, "Do you need care?"
Hello, Cyber Nurse. Oh, good. This episode hasn't robbed you.
Oh my god, we actually got some enjoyment out of this.
I was going to say, this episode hasn't robbed you completely of your ability to laugh, which is good.
Oh, jeez.
What do we think Ashard was doing to his warriors?
You mean when he got on the carrier and was zapping them with the weird zapping?
When he makes them scream.
I have theories. And they're kind of tied in with my theory to him, but I'll try to be as vague as possible. I think one of the possibilities is, in order to make a Cyberman scream, based on the knowledge that we have, you would have to somehow get rid of or remove the inhibitor, correct?
Broadly speaking, yeah. We have had a Cyberman scream before. I think there's a Cyberman in The Age of Steel that punches something that electrifies it, and it screams in pain.
Well, see, that I think still counts, because you could argue that the electricity is slightly shorting out the inhibitor chip,
yeah.
And that makes it scream, because it realizes the pain it's in. But the basic idea is that the chip prevents them from feeling any pain, because the people inside the Cybermen are almost completely always in pain, from what I understand, well, until they die, or whatever happens to them when they're in.
Yeah.
Because 9 times out of 10, they're converted when they're still alive. So, I think what he might have been doing is getting rid of the inhibitor chip.
I think he's switching them off, yes.
Which could be both good and bad, depending on what they do with it.
It just would have been nice to have that confirmed.
Yeah. My other theory is a sort of hive mind type thing, where he's putting in like a version of himself. So essentially he's doing like what the Master did back in Sound of Drums, where he made an army entirely of himself.
Is also a solid theory.
I guess it all just depends on exactly what happens, but from the fact that it made the Cybermen scream, it had to be enough to hurt the inhibitor chip somehow.
Yeah.
So it seems like that's the best option we...
Either that, or he was doing something funky with the Siberian.
Or that, but I don't know if that would be part of, using the weird gun thingy.
I have a horrible feeling that actually the reason he did that was just to make him look even more scary by making Cybermen scream, because Raviev says, we're carrying a Cyberman who makes other Cybermen scream. If that was your intention, Chibnall...
It makes sense that he would want to change them, because he's looking to ascend, to make them more than what they currently are. So,
yes. And then we get that shot of them all coming out of the containers, and it didn't look good, I'm sorry.
No.
It could have been. There were a couple of really sort of jarring filming inconsistencies in this one. the scene, I think the biggest offender is the scene where Graham, Yaz, and Ravio and the other two, because I can't remember their names, are stranded in space, and there's this red light flashing after they've fried the engine.
I'm going to call them Boring Rory and Brunette Riversong, because that's who they reminded me of.
That's unfair on Rory and River Song. They were actual characters.
I know, but still. Oh wait, no, Ravio was the one who looked like River Song. It's the chick with the hat you're talking about.
The chick with the hat and the one hand, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll call her Handy then.
Can we not?
Yeah,
Can we just
sure.
not?
I'll just call her Hat Girl.
Hat Girl's fine. So Hat Girl, not Rory, Ravio, Yaz, Graham. They're stranded in space. They've fried the engine because they took it past 90% capacity like they were warned not to. And there's this red light flashing, and I don't know what it looked like on your television, but on my HD television, it looked awful.
I was watching it on a 1920 by 1080 screen, and it looked meh.
It looked so pixelated, it looked so saturated, it just looked bad. And I thought, what is it? Maybe because I'm watching it on the HD television, so I'll look back on the iPlayer, and it wasn't quite as bad, but it was still pretty bad.
Yeah.
Shame, because
the merry-go-round was fun.
The what, sorry?
The middle of the ship was always spinning, so they were on like this giant merry-go-round.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was fun.
So even the outside of the ship looked like your typical UFO, stylized UFO, or just an enclosed merry-go-round. It's weird.
And I hate to say this, but once again, really all they were doing here was building up the cyber troops for next week.
Yeah.
They will presumably do something. They will presumably wreak some kind of havoc. But all we see them do is wake up, get tortured, wake up en masse, and then burst into the room and start shooting.
Yeah.
That's all they do. That's all these new Cybermen do.
Yeah. Plus, they don't seem all that interested in taking prisoners for conversion.
No.
So.
They're just all about the murder now as the Cybermen. Maybe because they've got so many troops now, they feel they don't need to convert.
Yeah, but name I still can't pronounce.
Should be the Lone Cyberman?
Yeah, seeing as the Lone Cyberman is a huge dick.
Yeah.
And he still has his emotions. I could see him converting them just to get at the doc.
Yes, possible. A Shad. Now, I think I figured out why they called him that, by the way, because he said that I was ashamed. If you take the me out of ashamed, you get a Shad.
A Shad man.
You actually get a Shad if you take the word me out of ashamed.
Well, yeah, he's a Shad man.
Please tell me that's not the reason why they called him that. Please tell me that's not it.
Maniac?
Yeah?
May I remind you of the anagram?
Oh, God, that's it, isn't it?
Yeah. Speaking of, I didn't hear the anagram in this episode. It must be next episode.
Oh, no. It wasn't there. I know what you're referring to. So, the BBC played a bit of a joke.
Oh God!
With the description for the next episode and the cast list, and they listed a character called
having fun.
Faku as Barack Stemis being the actor. It may surprise you to learn that there's no actor called Barack Stemis, and that was an anagram, and we'll get to what the anagram was later on. But it's not the first time they've done this. They did it back in the 70s and 80s as well. They tried to hide certain things through anagrams and through wordplay. Yeah, they didn't need to do that because it kind of absolutely telegraphed what was going to happen at the end. And we'll talk about the end later. Because right now we have to talk about the other strange thing in an episode full of strange things.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's some stranger things going on.
What in the name of Tipperary is going on with Brendan?
Well, I do have that theory.
I've got to hear this. I've got to hear this. Because I don't have a
I
clue
think
where this
he's
fits
the lone
in.
Cyberman.
You think he's the lone
I think
Cyberman?
he's the lone Cyberman.
That is definitely
Yeah.
a possibility, yeah.
Or at the very least, he has to be related, because one of the scenes that we see is he's just become an officer, or maybe he's been doing it for a while. It's time jumping. Who the fuck knows anymore? But he's confronting a thief at the edge of a cliff. The thief somehow gets him to take the thief's position at the edge of the cliff. Thief shoots him. He falls a very, very long way onto a rocky beach. He should be dead. He immediately gets up and decides to go chasing after the thief.
Yes.
That's just weird.
That is odd.
And then, like, everybody else is like, what the fuck are you?
Him being the lone Cyberman could be one explanation, but again, they don't explain anything with this. He could be the lone Cyberman, he could be the timeless child, he could be a Time Lord, because that equipment they put him in at the end looked quite similar to the Chameleon Arch to me.
Well, I honestly can't say for sure.
No, and this is the... I hate to sound like a broken record, but this is the whole problem with Ascension of the Cybermen. It doesn't explain anything.
I just had an idea.
Yeah?
I just had an idea.
Yeah?
What if he is the timeless child, and because of what was happening to him, that's why he got converted into a Cyberman?
Solid theory.
Combination of both theories.
Solid theory. Until it's explained, we won't know.
If you look at the headphones they put on him, it does kind of look like the Cyberman head.
It does.
Too.
It looks like the Cyberman head, but it also looks like the Chameleon Arch in Human Nature when David turns into a human. And he is also electrocuted, by the way, in that story.
Yeah.
Who knows, quite frankly.
But by the way, the part that really gets to me is the fact that we see his young adult years where he gets shot. His father is very concerned as to what the hell is going on with him. And then it skips straight to his elder years. We don't see him as an adult.
It skips to his elder years, but neither his father nor the police sergeant have aged a day.
Yeah. And then they take him to the back room and essentially give him electroshock therapy with the weird chameleon arch thing.
I think this. I sense the hand of the Time Lords in this somehow. I don't know why. I just do.
Well, this just makes my theory make more sense now because... And he became the lone Cyberman as well. That could explain why the Master was like, you don't know anything. Because then, essentially, they were torturing someone who just kept, more than likely, because he grew up, essentially regenerating into a kid, coming back to a kid, to adult, back to a kid, to adult.
If Chibnall somehow ties the Cybermen to Time Lord lore, oh my god. That's what he's going to do, isn't it?
Old Doctor Who or anything that explained where the Cybermen came from?
There's been multiple explanations for the Cybermen. Mondas is their usual place of birth, but there have been other factions of Cybermen set up independently on other nations and other worlds. Big Finish has done.
Has there been one concrete thing?
Yeah.
I know there's Mondas.
Big Finish has done their own Cyberman origin story. Spare Parts is a particularly good one. Obviously, there was Dark Water, Death in Heaven, which had a new version of Cybermen created out of the dead. Then you had World of Nothing Time, which, by the way, is a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece compared to this one.
But based on presumably already existing cyber technology.
Yeah.
The original technology.
Exactly, but as the Master says in that story, I call it the genesis of the Cybermen. So having an origin of the Cybermen is not anything new. We've done it before.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying who generated the technology?
Well, that we don't know. And if that's the Time Lords, then that's a pretty big change.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking. It's like, if this is Chibnall's goal to make the Cybermen a product of the Time Lords,
oh god, I dread to think.
Might explain why they're going after humans, because humans and Time Lords look very much alike.
I dread to think.
I honestly have no idea. All I know is we get half of a Doctor Who episode, and then half of like Inspector Clouseau or something.
It's more like 5 minutes, but still, we didn't really need to spend those 5 minutes setting up another plot arc.
All I know is it's fucking annoying.
Or if you're going to do that, extend the episode out to a full hour. The pacing for this episode is all over the place.
It's like not even that. You can tell this is Chibnall's attempt to be as artsy as possible. Because he switches from, Brendan growing up. We get somewhat attached to him. And then the mother says, if the fever doesn't go down, we'll call the doctor. And then it switches immediately to the doctor. With no apparent ties at all, because she's not even in the same place as him.
No.
He's trying to be artsy as fuck, and he's failing.
I thought at first that maybe what was supposedly Ireland was actually like a futuristic village in the style of an old-fashioned island.
Yes, and that would have been cool. But it ain't.
And then I realised, well, no, hang on a minute, we've seen Ravio and the others, and they don't look anything like Irish. Oh, God, this is something else entirely, isn't it? I like the fact that it looks very dreamlike when we get the scenes in Ireland. They've like washed out the camera a bit to give it this ephemeral, dreamlike quality.
Oh wait, that was intentional? I thought Ireland just looked like that.
And chugging one on the list of nations Cat's not allowed to visit because she's insulted the populace.
Hey, I thought it was gorgeous. I would love to go to Ireland someday and take a look around at it. It's beautiful.
Yeah. As to your point of how he somehow got him to stand where he was standing, if you have a gun pointed at you, you kind of do what they say.
I mean, I guess. But I mean, I don't know, just something weird about it. Like, he could have gone anywhere. He could have backed up away from the thief so that the thief could have plenty of time to run away. He could have gone to the side. Instead, he decides to switch places with the thief. Because the thief didn't, shake the gun to make him go anywhere or anything. The thief was literally just pointing the gun at him. The fucker did it all by himself.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it is weird. As is just about all of this episode.
Who let you be a cop?
Well, he's a young cop. He's just qualified, but yes.
Still, though, you think that they would cover that? They'd be like, if someone's pointing a gun at you, back away from him.
And then, just as he's retiring, his father, who isn't his father, says, "We have to get rid of everything." And then decides to thank you for your service. I'm sorry you won't remember any of it. And then he gets zapped, and we have no idea what that's going to go until next week. Can you imagine if they just don't resolve that? Can you imagine if they just don't resolve that next week?
I will literally buy a ticket to London. I will go to the BBC. I will ask for Chris Chibnall, and I would go up to him and scream, "What the fuck is wrong with you?"
I'd pay money to see that, but I don't think you get anywhere near him. But
oh, you would be surprised. I am very persuasive.
And then we have I don't doubt that for a second. And then we have yes, another mystery set up. So they do quite a nice little bit of bait and switch with Co Sharmus throughout the first half of the episode. The reference to Co Sharmus. And it seemed like the sort of safe haven from the Cybermen. It's like a utopia, if you will. Turns out it's not that. It's a person.
And I don't trust him for 5 seconds.
He did give me vibes of being a bit of a villain.
You know who he reminded me of?
Yeah.
Star-Lord's father from Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Ooh.
Ego.
He reminded me of Luke Skywalker about the budget in the sequel trilogy of Star Wars, but
I mean, to be fair, Luke Skywalker had a lot more personality.
Of course he did. He's Luke Skywalker. He had 3 films to set that up, but he's an old hell.
No, I mean, by this point, Mark Hamill just kind of went, "Fuck it, I'm going to do whatever I want to."
Yeah.
And it was glorious.
It was. It was. We do learn more about Co Sharmus than we do about most of the other supporting cast, which is good. He was a prisoner in a cyber camp. He escaped with some others. They went through this mysterious boundary. He stayed behind.
Which I agree is a really stupid move. I mean, it's great that you decide to stay behind, but also you look like complete shit, dude.
But he might be the wisest one of all if the boundary turns out to be something not benign.
Wait, hang on a second.
Yeah?
He never specifically states how many years he's been there.
He does not. He does not.
However, it could be surmised that he's been there for at least a while, because he assumes that there's no more humans left in that section of the universe, correct?
Yes.
What the fuck is stopping him from going beyond the boundary?
Good question. It's not explained.
He thinks that there's nobody left at all.
Unless, of course, he's not going for the boundary because he knows where that leads to, and that's a bad idea.
I have no... But either way, he's sketchy as fuck.
He is quite sketchy. When at the end, when he was telling the doctor to get nearer to it to make it come up, I thought
something bad was going to happen.
Yeah, I thought, you're luring into a trap, aren't you? He wasn't, or at least he wasn't really to be doing that in this episode, but I don't know. Something about him is not right.
He's unnerving.
I did like the bait and switch that Ko-Shamus was a person, not a planet, though.
Ooh, idea. What if he didn't actually escape from that Cyberman conversion camp, but he was turned into a spy, and he's been secretly sending them all back to the camps? Like
the Cyberman drone idea that I mentioned earlier, yeah.
That would actually be really cool.
Dalek puppet, that's the word I was looking for. Cyberman puppet.
Yeah.
That could really work.
I mean, let's be fair, Chibnall's probably not going to do it, but...
And there's a bit of dialogue that says that the boundary is never the same twice, so the Cyberman can't follow us through it. Bear in mind, Revio's never seen the boundary, she's just going off supposition here. So that's fair enough. And it kind of contradicts the end of the episode, where the boundary shimmers and a projection of Gallifrey is shown. It's still trashed. It's still on fire.
Yeah.
And Ko-Shamus says, I've never seen it like that before.
What if it always went to Gallifrey? What if he's a Time Lord?
Oh, man. But why wouldn't the Doctor recognise him? Mind you, she didn't recognise the Master or Ruth, so it's entirely possible.
Yeah, and it's like when Yana was a thing. She didn't recognize him at all. I mean, sure, he had the chameleon arch on, but don't they still have the two hearts? No,
if you're human, you have the one heart.
Oh, well then never mind.
It actually physically changes their biology.
She didn't recognize Ruth at all.
It changes their biology to be human, including the one heart and the finite lifespan.
Either way, she didn't recognize Ruth, she didn't recognize the Master, so it stands to reason that he could very well be a Time Lord. And it could be also that the Cybermen that were out there were gathering humans for more experiments.
I'm beginning to wonder just how many Time Lords are out there now, to be honest with you. We know that the Master destroyed Gallifrey, somehow. We know that he says he killed them all, but the Master does lie, don't forget. But,
yeah.
I'm just wondering if there are maybe some survivors out there. Maybe
Plus,
this Ko-Shamus
the dude said he had never seen it like that before.
Yeah.
Which means that he could have been there for a while and just not looked into the boundary for
a while. And that contradicts what Ravio said about it's never the same twice. If it's never the same twice, of course he'd never seen it like that before. He'd never see it again because it's always different. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense at the moment.
Honestly, it seems like there's the hints of a bigger conspiracy, but it could be that we're just doing conjecture and none of what we're saying is absolutely true. And instead, Chibnall's going to do something really stupid.
Entirely possible. And then to end off the episode, two of our companions are in mortal danger. They might even be dead at this point. The Cybermen burst through the door that they're trying to blockade. Well, they didn't blockade it very well, but they're trying to keep them out. They don't succeed. And then, all of a sudden, a figure jumps through the boundary from the other side, and it's none other than Barat Stemis.
A.K.A. the Master.
Yeah, Master is back. That's the anagram that the BBC put out there.
Which, honestly, as soon as you think, the Master is supposed to be in this episode. What if I take out the letters for Master, and then literally the rest of the letters that are left says back is Master?
Yes.
So all you have to do is say Master is back.
Yeah.
Put it backwards.
It's ridiculous.
It's stupid.
It's ridiculous. We knew he was coming back at some point. I thought he was going to be in episode 10 only for some reason, but we knew he was coming back. So if this is supposed to be a big, shocking return, it wasn't.
It ain't.
No.
Also, here's something that I had a problem with. At the end, he says, just more of the same bullshit, everything you know is a lie, whatever.
Yeah.
Are you seriously trying to make him intimidating, Chibnall? Because we've seen him for 2 episodes, not even the full episode. And in one of them, he wasn't even the Master at that point.
No.
He was hiding. And then now we've seen him for like 5 seconds at the end of an episode. And you're trying to make this motherfucker intimidating to us?
I love Sacha Dhawan's portrayal of this character. I think he's absolutely brilliant at it, but
Chibnall can't write him.
no. It's good to have him back, don't get me wrong, and I did love his little meta line of, oh, wow, that's a good entrance, right? As he jumps through. And just the grin on his face, that was great. But less great was when he said, oh, be afraid, Doctor, because everything you know is about to change forever. You've said that already.
And also, you're not fucking intimidating. You're just not.
No, but he doesn't have to be intimidating.
We haven't known you long enough.
He's intimidating to the Doctor because of her history with the Master.
But he's not intimidating to us because we don't know anything about this incarnation of the Master.
He's not. He's really not.
I mean, with Missy, she kept popping up during the entire series. Sure, we didn't care for it all that much because it was weird and nonsensical. But once she showed up in, Dark Water and the other one, the name escapes me at
Death
this
in
moment.
Heaven.
Death in Heaven. Once she shows up in that and she gives her name, it's like, oh shit, it's the Master.
Yeah.
Then it's like, oh, this is actually really good because we've had character development.
And it didn't hurt that Michelle Gomez is brilliant. It doesn't hurt that Michelle Gomez is brilliant, but yes, there was actual build to it. It was established this character was going to be an important thing in the finale, and then she was an important thing in the finale.
Let's even put it this way. During the Martha era, we had the Master through there. You know what we kept seeing anytime we returned to Earth?
Yeah.
Fucking Harold Saxon
Mr. Saxon. Yeah.
We had established him as a character. And then once we got to see him, we got to know who he was, and we found out he's the fucking Master. And that was, I'm sorry for this pun, but that was a masterful way to introduce him.
I still think the Yana reveal in Utopia is probably one of the show's best ever moments.
Yes.
And this just...
Do you know what we got for this series, people? We got mentions of, oh, the Master might be somewhere. Oh, the Doctor's looking for the Master.
Yeah.
And that's fucking it.
2 episodes where he's introduced in this new incarnation. The second of which he's banished to some other dimension, unspecified dimension. Then I mentioned, I think, in the future of the Jadoon briefly that the Doctor is looking for him to get some answers. And then nothing until, surprise, I'm jumping out of the portal.
And none of us were surprised at all.
No, we all expected it. Now, if Ruth had jumped out that portal, that's another story.
That would have been a surprise.
I still think Ruth's going to show up next week.
If fucking Captain Jack sprang out of that portal, I would have been surprised.
I don't think Jack's coming back till next series now, but...
Oh, he's not... I don't think he's ever coming back. That was literally just a cameo to Panda to us at this point.
Oh, boy.
Which makes it even more annoying.
Yeah, it does.
Can you tell I'm a little angry at this episode?
No, you have every right to be angry at this episode. It's fine. I keep trying in vain to find things to say about it that are positive, and I just can't do it. And it's
like, yeah, we get characterization for Yaz, but it's a little too late.
Even the Master, that fantastic villain, that character with such a rich history in this show, who's rooted into the show's lore, who's the Joker to the Doctor's Batman, essentially. even he suffers under the writing of this episode, because his return isn't impactful, because all he does is show and say the same thing he's been repeating throughout the series about, everything you think you know is a lie, and everything's going to change forever, and this is going to hurt. No, sorry, that's the trailer for next time. But he's saying the same things over and over.
It's like we got no hint of what could possibly be different. All we have is there's a timeless child, there's a second doctor who we have no idea where the fuck she belongs because we haven't heard of her except for that one episode in Fugitive.
I'm sure she's coming back next week,
though.
She's got to come back next week. Even if she shows up just at the end to set something else up, she's got to come back.
There's nothing here. There's
and this
literally nothing here.
This is the whole danger of having your big, all-encompassing story arc be everything's going to change. Because at some point you've got to deliver on that, or nothing will happen. We have reached a breaking point with this episode, or I have reached a breaking point where it goes from teasing and okay, that's all right, but come up with something soon, to okay, that's enough. You've got to have a payoff now. Even if the payoff is bad, even if the payoff makes no sense, you've got to have a payoff, or there'll be hell to pay.
Yeah, it's like if this episode was a two-parter, where immediately afterwards the 10th episode aired, I might tolerate it more. But the fact that we have to wait a week to know exactly what the hell is happening is so frustrating to me right now.
It may improve with a double watching like that, but right now, I can't even rate it that highly, because I can't even rate it full stop, because there's just so much unknown in here.
This is like a murder mystery novel with half the pages torn out, and then the ending has been burned.
That is a brilliant analogy. That's exactly what it is.
It's kind of like... Have you ever watched the CSI series?
Oh, yes. Frequently.
One of the ideas of the CSI series is that during the thing, they have these little... like they might have an overarching story. One of my favorite ones is the miniature killer.
That was brilliant.
The idea is that there's someone who is making these little miniature dioramas of murder scenes.
Yeah.
And they are incredibly exact, even to the point that if anything changes in the scene, the miniature will be changed.
Yeah.
And the best part is, they have been receiving the miniatures before the murders.
Yeah,
so she literally sets up... Spoilers, the miniature killer is the woman. She literally sets everything up in that murder scene to look exactly like her diorama.
You're not spoiling, because I've seen that series, and it is brilliant.
Well, I'm saying for the viewers. If
no, I understand. I understand.
And the idea is that it's this whole overarching story, and we get like these little tidbits here and there of what's going on, but we never know exactly what they know. We never hear what their developments are. We never have any idea until all of a sudden in one episode it's like, hey, we think it's this chick who's the murderer, and it turns out that they're right, and we have no idea how they got there. None whatsoever.
Yeah.
That's what this feels like to me. It feels like we're being given these little hints and clues and ideas about a story, but we as people do not understand how they interconnect. Only Chibnall knows how they... And that is the most frustrating thing about this.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. Plus also, it's now the third series finale to feature both the Master and the Cybermen.
Which is just... We already know this. Chibnall does not have an original bone in his body.
Although I think, at least in this one, they're not going to be working together. Who knows? Who knows at this point? Yeah, who knows at this point? Let's wrap this up then, because I can feel the energy just draining out of the room.
Oh no, trust me, I still have a lot of energy left to start complaining about this more.
Well, why don't you do that with your overall thoughts, and why don't I let you go first?
Okay, so I did miss the cold opening. That's just because of the way I have to watch the series. which is completely legal and above the board, I swear.
Of course it is.
Yes. And it's not at all related to the fact that we canceled the cable in my house.
Not at all. Yo ho.
But, the one I watched did not have the cold opening, so it went straight from Ascension of the Cybermen to Brennan. And I was trying to figure out, okay, there's a baby in the middle of the lane. How is he connected? He's growing up. He's getting sick. There's the doctor. What the fuck? And then we spent all this time going back and forth between these two viewpoints, never knowing exactly why they connect, never understanding exactly what's going on. All we know is that they're on a random planet that a signal led them to. They're setting up these random bullshit devices that don't work and have no meaning whatsoever. They kill people we don't know or care about because we haven't had long enough to know them. Or had any time to know them at all, in the case of poor, random Asian lady. They get separated, so now we have a third storyline, essentially, to follow in this. Which is very George Lucas, because that's something he did in his prequels. Was he just kept adding more and more storylines until it's like, what the fuck are we doing? This is just a huge, giant mess. It hasn't resolved anything. It hasn't done anything but set more bullshit up. Which means that episode 10 is either going to be the most rushed, confused mess of an episode that has all this bullshit in it, or some of it is not going to be resolved until the next series. And that pisses me off.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot, in good faith at this time, say I feel anything for this episode other than contempt. Pure, unadulterated contempt. Because of how bad this is. Maybe my views will change once episode 10 comes out. But at this moment, this episode is below Orphan 55 and even below Forest of the Night.
Blimey.
Forest of the Night at least had a coherent story. It had a plot that I could follow. There are trees, they're doing weird bullshit, something's up. I can understand that. Here I have 3 different fucking storylines I'm supposed to understand without ever understanding any of them.
But apart from that, Mrs. Lincoln, how did you enjoy the play? Yeah, pretty much my thoughts as well, honestly. This was barely an episode of Doctor Who. This was Chris Chibnall spending part 1 of the 2-part series finale setting up part 2 of the 2-part series finale. The supporting cast are paper thin and not worth caring about, as you rightly say. A shout to the menacing villain. I wouldn't mind seeing learning more about him. I suspect there'll be so much action this week there won't be time for that, like you alluded to. They've got 65 minutes to wrap so much up, cram so much in, and I just feel they'll cram too much in, and it'll be a big mess.
Yeah, it's like they still have the Timeless Child. They still have Ruth. We have to figure out what the fuck the lone Cyberman is doing with this Ascension bullshit. We gotta figure out what happened to Ryan and Yaz now. We've got the Master to deal with. We've got Gallifrey to deal with. We've got this old fucker at the boundary we have to deal with. We have so much bullshit right now we have to deal with.
And from the looks of things, the Doctor and the Master are going off together somewhere. In the trailer for next time.
Fan-fucking-tastic. They can leave me out of it.
Well, that could be an interesting pairing, though, if they have go and have an adventure together. But I agree with you. Now, as I stated earlier, unfortunately, FreezingInferno couldn't make this episode because of personal reasons, but he did request some time left at the end of this for me to insert his own thoughts. So please take it away, Jerry.
Hello, podcast listeners. Sorry I couldn't be here for the show, but you get to hear me in better quality than usual, thanks to the fact that I'm not being streamed off a connection or whatever. So, I'm not breaking up half the time. So let's talk about Ascension of the Cybermen. It sucked. This has been talking about Ascension of... No. We'll get more in depth than that. We'll try and do this rapid fire really quick. I don't want to take up too much time. Well, the Cybermen. Let's start with that. They did exactly what I said they were going to do last week. What I said I didn't want them to do. Big stompy death robots who blow shit up. But they actually did it worse than that. Because it's at this point that the lone Cyberman finally ran out of steam for me. In Haunting of Villa Diodati, he was actually pretty creepy. Just the initial shock of seeing the design made you go, what the fuck is that? And he had that twist where he's like, oh, I have emotions, and I'm angry and hateful, ooh, and stuff. It was kind of an interesting turn when it was just him. Now, it doesn't work as well. Like, it's trying to play a different tune than other Cybermen stories. Like, it's not really about body horror, and it's not exactly about emotionless, big stompy death robots. It's big stompy death robots, but now they're going to talk about how much they hate you and want to murder you dead. Which, I don't like it. I just don't like it. He's threatening, I suppose, but he's just a villain spouting hateful shit. This doesn't really fit the Cybermen, for me. It doesn't really do anything with what made the Cybermen great. It's like an emotional, ranting madman. I don't dig it. Now, there is one thing that kind of sparked my interest in this episode, and it's going back to more shit I said in the Haunting of Villa Diodati. I mentioned the whole Sailor Moon parallel, but this also reminded me of magical girl shit, namely the scenes with the survivors in Graham and Yaz, where they, being the last survivors of humanity, are just hopeless, despair-ridden, cynical. We're 2 seconds from death, nothing matters, we're absolutely fucked, why even hope? And Graham and Yaz are unflinching optimists, thanks to traveling with the Doctor and being like the Doctor of Hope and all that. And they're like, hey, chin up, it'll work out. We'll have a plan, we'll find a plan, we'll do something if we believe hard enough, which is interesting. I give it that, and their approach actually does seem to cheer them up a bit before we get the whole reveal of, it's 1,000,000 billion Cybermen on this ship, oh no, which is another thing, incidentally, that kind of is a bit trite. The lone Cyberman and his true posse would be just as much of a threat to these unarmed last survivors of humanity as 1,000,000 billion Cybermen. The effect is the same. We have no weapons and we're absolutely fucked. It's hopeless. It's really just stakes raising, like the Russell T Davies era used to do, but it's not 2006 anymore, Chris Chibnall. That being said, this whole hopeful thing actually does kind of work until that. It could be interesting if the episode was about that, but it's so half-baked and teasing about this that it can't be about that. So it's just a little tiny bit of subtext that made me perk up, but got chibnalled, for want of a better term. That's the whole episode, really. It's more questions than answers, which is especially frustrating considering we've only got one episode left. I've given Chibnall the benefit of the doubt with Spyfall, with Fugitive of the Dune, with other stuff. Okay, maybe we're building to something, you know? You're bringing up questions, you're giving us shocking little out-of-left-field reveals. I don't know if I like the idea of them, but I'm willing to see where they're going to go. But that approach finally ran out for me here. Especially with, like, the stuff with Brendan, the out-of-left-field, I don't even know what the fuck. I don't know what you people said about it. If you can't say anything about it. We don't know what the fuck. It's just there to raise more questions, to tease you, to get you anticipated, to hype you up for the big finale. This is all part of the marketing, too. Even when they're talking about other episodes earlier on, they were like, oh, just 3 more episodes until the finale that changes everything. And, like, we're there, Chris. We're here. It's the finale now. You've done your teasing. You've done your anticipation. Give us something now. You can't keep passing the buck and saying, oh, I'm setting up for a big thing. Keep on watching and you'll see something really exciting happening. You can't do that. This is it. This is the shit or get off the pot moment. You have to do something. Now, I'm sure the Timeless Children will do something. Whether or not that's something as satisfying is left up to expectation. I mean, it has to at this point. I shudder to think what he's going to do if he's going to try and do like the Silence arc that Moffat did, where he doesn't resolve everything, and then in series 13 there's a one-off line about, oh yeah, the Timeless Children was blah, 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 blah. I shudder to think that. That would be terrible. He has to resolve something. And the problem he's put himself into is Ascension of the Cybermen is nothing. It's a 50-minute teaser. And now the Timeless Children will likely suffer because of it, because either A, it's overstuffed to the gills with explanation because Chibnall finally ran out of time, or B, he continues to pass off the buck and only explain a few things and leave the rest open for Series 13, which God knows when that will be. And that's just not fucking satisfying. There's nothing satisfying about this episode. The biggest thing you've got is, Cybermen, which I personally don't give a shit about Cybermen. If you give a shit about Cybermen, if you were excited about them, I'll give you the Cyber Drones were kind of a neat idea, trying something new, but there's nothing about assimilation or body horror. It's just, we're evil robots and we're going to fucking kill you. And it's not even delivered in the emotionless nature that the Cybermen would have, which could make things terrifying. It's just a really pissed off guy. I'm gonna fucking kill you! This is bad. This is really, really bad, and I run out of patience with Chibnall because of it. Like, a 50-minute teaser for the finale with big stompy robots. Get real. This sucked. See you next week.
So that was essentially the Cybermen. We didn't really like it, as you can probably tell.
No, not at all.
I think I maybe liked it the most out of the three of us, but not by much. And next week, hopefully we get an improvement. Hopefully we get something as the series ends with the Timeless Children.
Oh God, there's more of them?
Well, I think
Are you fucking kidding me?
I think that's the Doctor and the Master. I think that they're being clever with it.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Hang on. I did not get a next time trailer, okay?
Yeah.
So whenever we've been talking about the next time trailers, I've been watching them later. I haven't seen this trailer yet. I didn't even know the episode title until you just said it.
This is
There's
why I kept
more
it
than
hidden.
one fucking timeless child.
I don't think there is. I think this is like the Doctor's wife, where the TARDIS isn't literally the Doctor's wife. I think the Timeless Children are the Doctor and the Master. The Witch's Familiar didn't have an actual witch in it, did it?
I am so... Well, okay, let's be fair. Missy was a witch with a bee, so...
Yeah. I don't think they're being literal when they say the Timeless Children. I mean, they might be, in which case, what the hell, Chibnall? But...
This does make me wonder if my theory is correct, that they are taking humans in, and essentially, maybe they're not putting them through physical torture. Maybe it's like a Matrix type thing, where they just keep essentially getting reborn over and over until something goes right.
That does have echoes of Heaven Sent, you're right.
Or who the fuck knows? Maybe this entire fucking thing is how they make new Time Lords.
Oh
they
my
go ahead and they get
God.
these children, and then they brainwash them. And then at some point they do surgery to give them an extra heart. Who the fuck knows at this point?
I'm
so
know.
irritated by Chris fucking Chibnall, who can't fucking do anything right. And this is serious anger, by the way. This is how I get when I'm actually angry.
Don't sugarcoat it, Kat. Tell us how you really feel. I do want to know.
You can't go around talking about the timeless child and then name the next episode The Timeless Children.
Yeah.
You just can't do that.
That is a slap in the face.
This is like saying there's no reason to have the timeless child at all, because if there's two of them, then the first one isn't the fucking special one.
I will reserve judgment to see whether or not it's a literal title or an allegorical title. If it's a literal title, oh no. God, no.
As long as Ruby's not coming back up.
Oh, God, she better not be the timeless child. I will flip a table. I will flip several tables if she's the timeless child. But you haven't seen the Next Time trailer, you said?
No,
right.
I plan to watch it in a minute.
Okay.
I've just been busy.
Really of note is just that only two characters for the attack on the troop carrier are shown to have survived it for definite. I mean, Yes and Graham probably survived it. That would be a hell of a way to write them out. They just get shot in the finale of the part 1.
They get shot off fucking screen.
Oh, that would be something else, wouldn't it?
Let's put it this way. If it turns out that's what happens, you will hear me in London.
Yeah, and I think I'll hear you all the way here in Blackpool. And the master quotes somebody that we've met before in this series. That's quite interesting. I don't want to spoil that for you. You're going to go and watch the trailer later. There's some talk about Gallifrey, and that's it.
Because I might just start yelling again.
Yeah, there's some talk about Gallifrey, and that's about it. That's the only hook we have for the finale of Series 12.
Oh God, what if Ruth doesn't come back?
Oh, she might not. Or maybe Ruth is how they save the people on board the ship. Maybe she teleports in and gets them off the ship somehow. I don't know. I don't know about so much of this episode, but thank you, Kat.
All I know is I'm really pissed off right now.
Yeah, I can tell. So I think we should, for your sake and mine, we should wrap this up here. Thank you, Kat, so much for joining me to talk about the damn it, that's next week. Ascension of the Cybermen. See, it was so nothing, I couldn't even remember the title. Thank you for joining me.
We'll see you next week for the other bullshit that ends off this bullshit.
Well, hopefully we're proved wrong. Hopefully we get a resolution with Brendan, and we get a resolution with Ruth, and we get a resolution with Gallifrey and the Master. And as I say this, I know we're not.
Yeah, and even if we do, it ain't gonna be good because it's one fucking episode.
65 minutes, people. 65 minutes to either save this series or burn it down forever.
You know what, actually? No, I'm going to hold off until after the next episode to ask the question. I'm going to hold off.
Okay.
So just keep that in mind, that at the end of next week's episode, once we do our podcast, I have a very important question for both of you.
Is it something to do with what drugs Chibnall might be on, or anything like that?
Oh, no, we know exactly what it is. It's cocaine, because only that can make him this insane.
Okay. Well, thank you, Kat.
Is the drug of choice for the media industry.
Yeah, I know this. I know this wasn't easy for you, so thank you for joining me and for holding the fort really well.
This was very easy. I loved complaining.
For holding the fort very well while Freezing Inferno's away. He should be back next week, and when we come back next week, we will be reviewing, God help us, The Timeless Children. Yeah, I hope you're wrong, but I think you're probably not. Until then, bye for now. And
I would also like to state that, and you can put this at the end if you want, I don't really care. The whole reason I'm getting so angry about this is not the fact that I'm so involved in this TV show that it becomes my whole life. It's just a TV. I understand. But you have to think of it this way. This is my Sunday night entertainment. This is what I look forward to every week that it's on. I love Doctor Who. I love to be able to anticipate what's going to happen next. What's going to happen in the next episode. This was so infuriating because this was what was promised to me, was this entertainment. And it was a shit episode. That's why I'm so...
I cannot disagree with you.
I asked for so little. All I ask is that you make an entertaining episode. It doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be bad. It doesn't have to be anything, because I've gotten out of really bad episodes before. Like, I find it funny about the whole the moon is an egg thing that Frez does. I find it funny, about the whole Forest of the Night bullshit, because half of what I say is true, the other half is, highly, what's the word for it, exaggerated.
That's the word,
I
yeah.
don't like the kids from Forest of the Night because they're terrible actors. I don't really care that much about that. It's when you do something like this. This is essentially a lot like the bootstrap paradox thing. This is an insult. And
Yeah.
that's why I've got stuff.
Again, I cannot disagree with you.